So I wanted, before we get started, to let everyone know that I have a new podcast out, and it's called Meditations. If you like the Meditations segment of this current podcast, you'll like the Meditations podcast. It's nothing but 20 minutes of meditative sounds. And now, on with the podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
The highest rate of divorce are lesbians. By a mile. Lesbian marriages have the highest rate of divorce in the world. The second level of divorce is heterosexuals. The lowest level of divorce is gay married men. Now, let me mansplain to you what's just happened. The lesbians find it very hard to stay married because there are 2 women involved. Heterosexual marriages aren't without their complications because there is still 1 woman involved. Did you know the word gay means happy? With good reason. Because there are no women involved.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, Trump Tuesday, August the 12th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and Donald Trump. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. First Maria, then, we'll see if Stuart actually shows up today.
Reason he won the election, because he said he would rein in inflation, and that's what happened, as we saw once again with the CPI number this morning. And the reason that the Dow Industrials are up 225 points right now, the NASDAQ up 134, John.
Yeah, this isn't supposed to happen. My goodness, with tariffs, we were supposed to be getting higher inflation, and the opposite is taking place. And as a result, today's good inflation news has lifted the odds of at least 3 rate cuts this year from 45% up to 57% right now. Yep. It's good news for the economy. That's going to be helpful to consumers as well as home buyers.
Great point, Cheryl. I guess all those geniuses on tariffs were wrong again. Yeah. Great to be with you all. John, Lee, and Cheryl, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow. Varney and Company picks it up now. Ashley Webster in for Stu. Ashley, take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Webster in for Stu Varney today. And yes, we just got the latest read on inflation. Not too shabby. Holding steady with consumer prices rising 2.7% annually in July, just below, actually, the 2.8% forecast. Guess what? The markets like it. No rampant inflation to worry about. The Dow up 231 points. S&P up as well. The NASDAQ up 142 points. Let's take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield, see what that is doing. Ever so slightly down. We'll call it flat at 4.27%. Meanwhile, take a look at the 2-year yield, see if that's moving anywhere. Nope, same story, flat at 3.74%. Take a look at Bitcoin, hovering around that 119,000. It's up $795, 119,267. What about the price of oil? Dropping again, down 43 cents, 63.53 for a barrel of crude. And what about gold? Continues to move down after surging over the weekend, down another $3 benchmarks at 34.01 per troy ounce. Meantime, on China, President Trump extending the trade truce with Beijing for another 90 days. U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports will stay at 30%, while China tariffs will keep a 10% duty on American goods. Trade talks between the two countries are ongoing, so that is positive. In Washington, President Trump announcing he's taking control of Washington, D.C.'s police force, also sending in the National Guard as part of a major crackdown on crime. The move came just hours before a man was fatally shot in the city. Meantime, in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott says the state could eliminate up to 10 Democratic congressional districts if California goes through with its plan to redraw its House map. Governor Abbott, by the way, will join us in our 11 o'clock hour. Lots to talk about there. It is Tuesday, August 12th, 2025.
And thank God we don't have to listen to him anymore. So look at that. 2 days in a row that Stuart Varney couldn't be bothered to show up for work. He's paid $10 million a year. I pay $250 a month for cable bills so that he can take an extra day off. Aren't I lucky? Nonprofit news now. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Dr. Berg.
What would happen if you stopped eating for 72 hours, 3 days, out of all the things you can do for your health? Prolonged fasting is at the very top of your list. The feeling you're going to get from it is almost euphoric, a state of bliss. A lot of people do it to increase their spirituality and their mental state. Prolonged fasting is the only way to achieve deep cleaning, turning junk in your body to new cells. The other thing that I really like about prolonged fasting is that you're using fasting for exercising willpower. Willpower is the ability to remain in control of your body. I mean, think about an average person. Their whole life, they're not in the driver's seat with their food. When you actually say no to your body and you really start fasting, despite the smell of food, despite all the visual foods, your ability to say no gives you incredible power. This makes it easy to strengthen this willpower and stick with it a little bit longer than you normally would. Let's shift gears to cancer for a second. You just think about the biggest risk factor for cancer. It's age. As you get older, your risk for cancer goes up. Why? Because of the accumulated damage in your cells. Plus, as you age, you get more inflammation. You get less oxygen. Cancer tends to grow into areas of inflammation and low oxygen. Fasting is the most potent thing to reduce inflammation. There is some data to show that cancer cells can live on sugar, certain amino acids, as well as ketones, but not the ketones that come from fasting. Ketones are not just about an alternative fuel. They help your brain. Your brain prefers them. Ketones activate genes that extend your life. If you do regular prolonged fasting, I really believe that you can totally prevent getting cancer. This is why I recommend doing a 72-hour fast every single month. Prolonged fasting will also take insulin and really bring that way down. If we can keep that hormone low, your body can't grow a tumor. It's in a recycling, cleaning, cleansing mode. If we increase more oxygen, we can also reduce the risk of cancer, and that would be exercise, right? So this is why it's so important to also, while you're doing this prolonged fasting, go on long walks, get a lot of oxygen. Growth hormone also majorly goes up when you're doing fasting. Growth hormone helps you burn fat, but it also helps you preserve your muscles. Now let's switch to some practical tips with fasting. 1 or 2 days before the fast, you want to increase your fat to make it really easy to transition from glucose to actual burning fat. You also want to be doing intermittent fasting for a while before you try a prolonged fast. The other thing that's really important is electrolytes. I'm talking about potassium, magnesium, and sodium chloride in the form of sea salts. Supplements, and especially electrolytes, will not break your fast. One of the biggest problems with people that do prolonged fasting and don't feel very good is they're not having enough sea salt. And so they get keto flu, cramps, weakness in the muscle. How do you get this sea salt when you're fasting if you're not eating anything? You're going to have to take 1 to 1.5 to even 2 teaspoons of sea salt. Take a little bit and dissolve it in water. I might add lemon to it. I might also add sea salt to my coffee. The other really important thing is once you're done with this fast, when you transition into a meal, do not make this mistake. Don't start consuming anything sweet or carbohydrate. What you want to consume is just a little bit of sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, an egg, or some bone broth is really good. Because sometimes all it takes is a little bit of protein, get you back to where you need to be. Wait for a few hours and eat a little bit more. Your digestive system has gone to sleep and you have to wake it up slowly. You don't want to wake it up with carbohydrates. The reason why people don't feel good when they do prolonged fast is either they don't have enough sea salt or they haven't adapted to it gradually beforehand by doing regular intermittent fasting, or they just need more protein. You may have heard this story in another video, but I had this gentleman who reached out to me and he said, you might want to do a video on my story. He was very, very depressed. He was suicidal. He wanted to kill himself. So he locked himself in his room for a few days and just wanted to starve himself to death. Laid in his bed and just said, I'm not going to eat or drink anything. By day 3, he was feeling incredible, happy. Mind was working. He's like, well, why do I feel so good? So he goes on his computer and he discovered the benefits of fasting from my video, and it changed his whole life around. Another thing that can happen is if you have a tendency to get gallstones, you may generate a bit more bile sludge. The antidote is something called TUDCA, which is a very special type of bile salt that keeps the bile thinned and flowing through the ducts. Take 2 TUDCA twice a day. If you're pregnant, if you're lactating, I don't recommend you do prolonged fasting. I also did a video on a group of, I think it was 5 to 7 people. 1 or 2 of these people had diabetes type 1. And they wanted to do an experiment where they did exercise. They ran 20 miles every single day for 5 days in a row. They wanted to prove that a diabetic type 1 could handle doing 5 marathons in a row. But that wasn't the interesting thing about this story. It's that they not only ran 20 miles a day for 5 days, they also fasted. Yes, fasted for 5 days. What's really interesting is that they didn't get a lot of soreness. Why? Because the anti-inflammatory effects from the fasting sky high. I just want to put this out there just to show you can actually exercise and also fast at the same time, even if someone has a health problem. But of course, I'm not recommending it unless you check with your doctor. You now know the power of fasting in this part 2. But if you have not seen my part 1 yet, you will be missing some really key points. In part 1, I talk about what to eat after fasting, what to expect, how to get through the barriers, how to get all the benefits from this 3-day fasting. And for that information, watch this video right now. This one right here.
And that was Dr. Berg on YouTube. Back in a minute. Thank you. So from an article that was, actually it's in the Washington Examiner, why Trump, D.C. crime, why he is right. So the first paragraph, why Trump is right on D.C. crime. President Donald Trump's public safety initiative for the District of Columbia faces 2 great obstacles. The first is the persistence of crime, and the second is residents, local officials, and national Democrats who will resist Trump's efforts. He gets it all wrong, completely and utterly wrong. Even Trump gets this wrong. What this really is a referendum on government rights. This is going to be an issue of whether or not government has rights, and I mean, in this particular case, the mayor and the D.C. Council have rights. The right to do as they see fit, or do the residents of the District of Columbia have the rights? And if they do, then the things have simply authority and responsibilities that are laid out in the law, and they cannot exceed those authorities or those responsibilities without getting punished. But the way this is going to play out, again, as I've said before, as a balancing test. This is always why it's so important who it is, who the judge is. Democrat judges are always going to come down on the side of government rights. They're going to find an excuse and a way to make sure that the rights of the government are more important than the rights of the individual. And that's wrong. Obviously wrong. It doesn't require much. You don't have to have a master's degree to figure that out. Let's put it that way. So again, to sum up, this whole idea of why Trump is right and the crime rates and all that is baloney. It doesn't matter. That's not the point here. The point is, and what everybody needs to keep their eye on, is how the courts deal with this and who comes out as a winner. Is it going to be the individuals that live in Washington, D.C.? Are their rights going to be considered paramount, or is it going to be the rights of the mayor and the D.C. council? Back in a minute. Thank you. Here's an interesting, this is on YouTube Shorts, and it's called, from an account called Car Edge.
5 questions you never answer. Number 1, monthly budget. What's your monthly budget? Don't worry about my monthly budget. I've already done my research. I know what fits into my budget. All I care about is the out-the-door price. Number 2, do you have a trade-in? I might not. I haven't decided what to do with it yet. So the trade is irrelevant until we establish the out-the-door price. Are you paying finance or cash? I could. What? I could. It could go either way. We don't know yet until we establish what the out-the-door price is and we make sure that that fits into the budget that I've set for myself. What's the max you'll pay? I love this question. Well, what's the minimum you'll accept? That's the difference. They always want you to pay the max. You want to pay the minimum. The idea is to find a compromise in between, but you don't worry about that until you've established that out-the-door price. And if I can get you X amount more today, will you buy today? And the answer is, I don't know. Let's work on the out-the-door price, and then we can make a determination. If this sounds like it's kind of redundant that you just want to know the out-the-door price, that's because you just want to know the out-the-door price. And you have to keep the salesperson on task to get that out-the-door price.
And that was, it was about buying a car. Those are the 5 questions that he's teaching you and me how to deal with. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now time to get motivated.
I'm telling you, the one thing you cannot get back is time. It is your greatest asset. I'd give somebody some of my money for a couple more years to be with my wife. Time is the greatest enemy. You think it is infidelity. The greatest enemy. You thinking it is finances. You thinking it is in-laws. You thinking that it's differences. No. It is time. We've got to learn how to steward our time. We got to learn to tend to it, guard it, keep it.
I just want to make sure that the life we got left, that is sweeter than the life that if I would give up or if I wasn't focused and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. So when you've been with somebody since you're 16 years old and they got a chronic illness, don't you know it's easy for me to go drink? It's rough. My life, it ain't what it used to be before she got sick. Like while God is blessing her, she still got MS. I lost 5 ounces of cancer. You don't think I could have smoked some weed? You don't think when I'm going through that pressure, I couldn't have broke? But you talked about it, mental toughness. It is in those times we have to be stronger than we've ever been before. Why? Because they need us more than they ever needed us before. And you guys are blessed in that you are the 1%ers. Not many people want to be in your life who want the life that you have, and you got it, and you not taking it serious. Like, you know how many people would die to have this right? You know how many people would die to be on the field on Sunday? You know how many people would die to eat the way y'all eat? You know how many people would die to have the gear y'all got? You know how many people would die to get on these planes and travel the world? You know how many people would die to have your life? And you got it. It's your life. You got it. What you gonna do with it? You gotta be able to see it when it cannot be seen. You have to see it happening. You have to believe in the unseen, because if you can't believe in it, you will never manifest it. But when you believe in it, you demand the universe to assist you in what you're doing. And if you can see it before everybody else can see it, then it's going to eventually come to you. Forget about January. Forget about February. Forget about March. Forget about April. Forget about May. Forget about June. Forget about July. Forget about August. Forget about September. It's over. So forget about the past. Listen to me and make the rest of your life the best of your life. It's your boy E.T. I know you can do it. I believe you can do it. Now go out there, get up, get out, go get some.
Are you wasting your time or are you using your time wisely? You can replace money. You cannot get a year back.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now a little bit of meditation. And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Victor Davis Hanson.
There's another problem, and that is the Democratic Party has given the wrong messages. So we have first and second generation immigrants, many of them citizens, and second. And they come over here, and I'm thinking of Mr. Zoran Mondami or Ilhan Omar was an immigrant. He's an immigrant. Some of the members of the squad are first or second generation, and they immediately come over to this country from wretched places. Remember what Omar said? Things were much better in Somalia, and they weren't as bad. I looked how dirty it was here, or we didn't have a dictator in Somalia. That's the wrong attitude for an immigrant. It's a wrong attitude to go into a soccer game in the Coliseum in LA and see the crowd rooting for the Mexican team, not the American team. So something's gone wrong with the whole thing, and it's because of numbers and no civic education and no legality.
Victor Davis Hanson delivers a hard-hitting breakdown of immigration without assimilation and how it's fracturing American unity. He contrasts past waves of immigrants, Japanese, Mexican, and others, who were eager to integrate, intermarry, and embrace American patriotism, with today's influx of unaudited migrants arriving in unprecedented numbers, often without civic education or legal vetting. The consequences, he warns, go far beyond inconvenience. Drawing on decades of personal experience, hit-and-run accidents, property damage, and police inaction, Hanson shows how lawless behavior often hits Mexican-American communities hardest, not the...
So I'm going to stop it right there. The thing that is being missed here is the two reasons for all of this kind of behavior. And number one is disrespect for history. Dr. Sachs, in his book called The Collapse of Parenting, talks about the cult of disrespect, or he calls it the culture. I call it a cult. But the cult of disrespect, and the center point of that is disrespect for history. Back in the 70s, it was the Democrats and the left that simply declared arbitrarily that history is to be treated like a political statement and politics, and that history is written by the winners. And it was fascinating how many Republicans jumped on board. I heard the other day from a Catholic bishop who said, oh yeah, history is written by the winners, and it's false. It sounds good, but it's a, what do they call a fallacy? A fallacy is something that sounds right, but when you think about it, you realize it's wrong. And so it is with this idea that history is written by the winners, because in reality, history is written by historians, people that have no skin in the political game. So the second part of this is how you raise your kids, and it's liberal child rearing, the sovereign child, the idea that of letting your kids, being a responsible parent, letting your kids do whatever they want. It's very seductive, this idea of a sovereign child, because again, if you're a lazy parent, you really can't be bothered with raising your children properly, disciplining your kids, making sure they understand what all the rules are, not only the rules of the house, but the rules of society when they leave the house. What is it that's expected of them when they go to school, later on when they go to apply for a job, etc. So bad parenting and a disrespect for history, American and otherwise, is responsible for the things that he just described. But he hasn't figured that out yet. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Jeffrey Mead.
Today, because violent crime is out of control in the capital city. But you know what are the two cities in America with the highest rates of homicide? It's not Washington, D.C., it's St. Louis, Missouri, and Memphis, Tennessee. Those are cities in two states run by Republican governors.
Isn't it interesting that he chose to use two cities like the top two? That's because the third city is in Maryland, it's Baltimore, and the fourth city is Washington, D.C. Just to round off the top five, the fifth city is Jackson, Mississippi. But notice, he specifically said this.
Louis, Missouri, and Memphis, Tennessee. Those are cities in two states run by Republican governors.
So he said those are two cities in two states that are run by Republican governors. Who runs the cities? Oh, a mayor. Guess who has control of the police force in each one of those cities? The mayor. Guess who has a direct impact on city ordinances and policies? The mayor. Who has the prosecutorial partnerships within that city primarily? The mayor. Governors set statewide rules, but mayors shape the daily policing strategies, not governors. Notice how he tried to pull a little sleight of hand. It's blue cities ran by Democrats in red states. But here's the kicker. So of those top 5 cities that I just listed off, St. Louis, Missouri, Memphis, Tennessee, Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Jackson, Mississippi. I want you to guess, when do you think the last time St. Louis, Missouri had a Republican mayor? Guess. 1949. Guess the last time Memphis, Tennessee had a Republican mayor. 1967. The last time Baltimore, Maryland had a Republican mayor? 1967. Washington, D.C. has never had a Republican mayor. And the last time Jackson, Mississippi had a Republican mayor was 1969. So he only listed the first 2 cities because it was how he could try to push a narrative. If he would have listed the top 5, he would have had to admit that Washington, D.C., the capital of our country, is in that top 5. And then on top of that, he tries to act like Democrats are not the ones running these cities. But he wasn't done. Let's let this senator continue. Yes, this is a senator for Connecticut.
This isn't about the safety of the people of Washington, D.C. This is about a president who is desperate to distract the conversation in this country away from what he is doing, to monetize the White House, to make
running the same tired Democratic playbook. Let's try to find a way to demonize Donald Trump. That is their play. That's it. The top 5 cities for murder and violent crime are all ran by Democrats. They all have Democratic mayors. And rather than paying attention to that nuance, which he's not dumb enough to not know that, he knows a mayor runs a city, which is why he chose to talk about governors and not mayors.
And that's Jeffrey Mead. And again, Jeffrey, excellent. This is an excellent account, and he's doing an excellent job there. But he misses the underlying point, and that is that what this is really all about is it's a battle of rights. It's a balancing test of rights. And the question is, does the mayor, any mayor, have rights? Do they have the right to rule, so to speak? Does the D.C. Council have the right to rule? And the answer is no, they don't, because this is a democratic republic. And that's ultimately what this is going to be all about. This is why the Democrats are fighting this. It's not because they think it really has anything to do with crime. It's about whether or not the government has rights, and that the people in government have the right to do what they're doing, the right to be mayor, the right to be a D.C. council person, and the right to rule. And I am really hoping, I really want it to turn out that at the end of the day, when this is all settled, that we're going to have a judge that is going to nix that idea and remind people that the power is with the people, that the rights are with the people, and that the governor or that the government and the people in government have no rights. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now from a book that's called Good Inside. What's the opposite of understanding? For this argument's sake, it's convincing. Convincing is the attempt to prove a singular reality, to prove that only one thing is true. Convincing is an attempt to be right, and as a result make the other person wrong. It rests on the assumption that there's only one correct viewpoint. And then my question is this supposed to be convincing? Further, convincing has one goal in mind, being right. And here's the unfortunate consequence of being right. The other person feels unseen and unheard, at which point most people become infuriated and combative, because it feels as if the other person does not accept your realness or worth. Feeling unseen and unheard makes connection impossible. Understanding two things are true and convincing one thing is true are diametrically opposed ways of approaching other people, so a powerful first step in any interaction is to notice which mode you're in. When you're in one thing is true mode, you're judgmental of and reactive to someone else's experience because it feels like an assault on your own truth. As a result, you will seek to prove your own point of view, which in turn makes the other person defensive because they need to uphold the realness of their experience. In One Thing is True mode, exchanges escalate quickly. Each person thinks they're arguing about the content of the conversation when in fact they're trying to defend that they are a real, worthy person with a real, truthful experience. And again, is this convincing? Back in a minute. Thank you. And now an article from the American Thinker called Radicalism Rebranded. Is New York City's Mamdani Moment America's Problem? And it's by Kim Ezra Scheinbaum. And that sounds suspiciously like the name of the president of Mexico. But anyways, many Americans are asking how we reached a point where lawlessness, anti-Americanism, and open sympathy for terrorists are not only tolerated, but celebrated. And where mayoral candidates who would once have been considered fringe can win primaries in major cities. The answer? Since the 1960s, the United States has undergone one of the most dramatic political rebrandings in modern history, particularly on the left. The 60s radicals never disappeared. Their ideas, once considered extreme, have not only resurfaced, they've been rebranded. Today, extremism is marketed to a new generation as compassionate, inclusive, and enlightened. Marching under the progressive, quote-unquote, banner and embraced by a growing block of post-9/11 college-educated voters. However, while the rhetoric has softened, the underlying ideology and its mission remain unchanged. Indeed, the label, quote, progressive, unquote, is itself a branding triumph. It wraps radical demands in the soft language of European-style social democracy. But the resemblance is misleading. Unlike Europe's social democratic parties, which operate comfortably within free market economies and reject Marxist class conflict, the American progressive left is anti-capitalist and embraces identity-based Marxism, recasting social conflict in terms of race, ethnicity, and gender. Today, that rebranding is no longer confined to universities or activist circles. It's shaping electoral outcomes. The rise is not an aberration, but the culmination of a movement decades in the making. And so far, so good. He's showing a lot of depth and a lot of insight in this article, and that's great. The radical roots. In the 1960s, radical groups like Students for a Democratic Society, the Weather Underground, and the Black Panthers openly called for dismantling America's political and cultural framework. Their rhetoric, violent, confrontational, and contemptuous of American identity, alienated the public. The left learned a crucial lesson. They could not win by storming the gates. To succeed, they would need to exchange the vocabulary of revolution for the language of compassion, justice, and human rights. The rebranding campaign. Over decades, the left refined its message. Words that once triggered alarm were replaced with language that sounded moral and inclusive. This was more than semantics. It reframed the debate over what America is and should be. Policies once seen as dangerous gained legitimacy by being rebranded as moral necessities. Over the next several decades, the radicals and their ideological heirs shifted the battleground from the streets to the lecture hall, the newsroom, the school board meeting, and now to City Hall. The rebrand affected all sectors of American life. In universities, student radicals, once viewed with suspicion by administrators as agitators, turned into activists, eventually becoming administrators and faculty themselves. Serving on admissions committees, they made activism the price of getting in. Radical theories like Derek Bell's critical race theory might have sunk into obscurity and irrelevance, but rebranded by Bell's intellectual heirs under the more palatable and corporate-friendly banner of diversity, equity, and inclusion, it became, perhaps, the most successful academic-to-public transition of any modern ideological framework. Yet few outside the academy grasped that the new vocabulary did not carry traditional meanings. Equity, for example, did not refer to equality before the law or equality of opportunity, but to race-based preferences intended to correct for America's original sin. The result was a moral and linguistic shift with profound consequences for hiring, education, and public policy. The shift in vocabulary was even more pronounced in the realm of prisons and crime. Angela Davis, a self-described communist, once championed prison abolition from the margins. Her radical call has today been transformed into criminal justice reform. In the process, entire categories of crime like shoplifting have been decriminalized. Decarceration has replaced incarceration, and calls to defund the police have grown. The violent black liberation movement of the Black Panthers, which alienated many Americans, was rebranded in 2016 as Black Lives Matter. BLM, while rooted in the same frustrations as the Black Panthers, adopted a softer, more media-savvy approach using social media and protest art to gain support. Once the sanctity of a sovereign nation-state was accepted by both parties, but the campaign for open borders has been reframed as a humanitarian necessity, justified under no human is illegal, while the term illegal is replaced in public forums as undocumented. Amnesty was rebranded as a pathway to citizenship, justified as a prerequisite for true immigration reform. Rebranded under the rhetoric of compassion, Americans, especially the young, responded to the moral appeal. Even foreign policy has been affected. Groups once universally condemned as terrorist organizations like Hamas have been rebranded in activist spaces as resistance movements, sheltering under the umbrella of Crowleyist intersectionality. This rebranding is not cosmetic. It has reframed the very debate about what America is and should be. Generations have grown up hearing these ideas only through their softened vocabulary, never as the radical proposals they once were. The post-9/11 generation, now approaching 1/4 of the electorate, is the first to have been fully slapped or shaped in this rebranded political climate. In classrooms and lecture halls, they've been told America is not a nation to admire, but a system to repair or replace. Social media amplifies this worldview, rewarding ideological conformity and punishing dissent. In this environment, radical policies are embraced not for their practical outcomes, but as expressions of personal virtue. Free housing, free transportation, decarceration, and even sympathy for extremist causes are not viewed as reckless. They are considered moral imperatives. This is the cultural soil in which figures like Mamdani and Fatah thrive. The Mamdani and Fatah movement. Zoran Mamdani in New York and Omar Fatah in Minneapolis are not political outliers. Their platforms, government-run grocery stores, guaranteed housing and transportation as human rights, defunding police, mass decarcerations, and open sympathy for extremist movements would have been political suicide a generation ago. Today, they're winning primary elections. To their supporters, these policies are not radical, but overdue acts of justice. Challenging the legitimacy of core American institutions is framed as a moral good. Their success is proof that rebranded radicalism has moved from cultural influence to direct political power. The revolution is no longer outside the gates. The stakes. What is at risk is the definition of American citizenship itself. The new social contract abandons individual rights for state dependency, merit for identity politics, and the constitutional framework of limited government for a constantly shifting set of activist demands on government. The change is incremental but profound. If these ideas continue unopposed, the transformation will be irreversible. The America our grandparents recognized will survive only in history books, and eventually not even there. Calling it what it is, the rise of Mamdani and Fatah is the harvest of seeds planted more than half a century ago. The radicals of the 60s learned they could not seize power by force, so they changed tactics. Infiltrate, rebrand, normalize, and wait. The wait is over. The post-9/11 generation has arrived. Whether or not Mamdani or Fatah win their respective elections is beside the point. They have shifted the window of what is acceptable, even admirable, in mainstream politics. Others will follow their lead, perhaps with more subtlety, but no less conviction. We're now living in the age of the rebranded revolution, and unless it's named, challenged, and debated, it will continue to redefine America, not by storming the gates, but by changing the labels on them. And that was by Dr. Kim Ezra Scheinbaum, and it is an article in The American Thinker. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, what does the phrase, if you're explaining you're losing, mean in debates? This was said by Ronald Reagan, speaking of political campaigns. From the perspective of your audience, if you have to explain yourself, you come off looking desperate to convince. As a consequence, you lose the high ground. From a more philosophical perspective, when you have a clear conscience and strong conviction towards the positions you take, your values, truth, and direction, you don't need the opinions or consent of others. As a consequence, you don't need to explain yourself. However, if you yourself are not convinced of the validity and truth of your position, or you can't fully justify your choices, then you continue to expel words in an attempt to create the illusion of certainty. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now a little bit of motivational interview.
Motivational interviewing. I use this every single day in my office. It's really, and this is a process. It's not something that can be done in one visit. Sometimes it takes multiple visits to do this. But it's really kind of talking to the patient, aligning with them, letting them know, that there's not consequences here. My job is to work with you and partner with you to find something that's going to work for you, but also going to help me in my goals, which is to make sure that your symptoms are improved, that you're doing better in life, and that you're meeting your goals. That's always what we're trying to do here. So really making sure you use compassion. Active listening with motivational interviewing is so important. Don't be distracted. What I do all the time in my practice, I have to put my phone sometimes in my drawer because sometimes it's going off and it can be distracting. So when I know that I'm going to have these kind of conversations with my patients, making sure that they have your undivided attention, that they feel like you're listening to them,
So that is a lady that is apparently a psychologist. And so motivational interviewing, in essence, what it is, it's manipulative. It's designed to reach a particular goal or conclusion. And I bring this up because it's an excellent book called Motivational Interviewing, but it is listen when you hear somebody being interviewed, particularly Donald Trump or Vice President Vance or somebody like that. And when they're being interviewed, do you get the impression that the interviewer is being manipulative? And if they are, then they're not using a news-style interview. They're not using the news-style interview techniques. They're using a technique that is either better suited to psychologists or to police officers or to lawyers. Okay, so they may be conducting this as a way of to give the impression that they're psychoanalyzing whoever it is that they're interviewing, or that they're interrogating whoever it is that they're interviewing, or that they're conducting a deposition. Okay, which is much more controversial or more confrontational than, say, a news style. So, again, motivational interviewing as opposed to information interviewing or informative interviewing. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now Curtis Sliwa, who is running for mayor of New York City. This is a clip that he did for his campaign.
It's really sad. 55th, right in the heart, 1 block south of 7th Avenue, Carnegie Hall. This poor soul lives here every day. The Eric Adams administration does nothing about this, nothing. And they talk about, oh, we're taking care of the homeless, the emotionally disturbed. This man is in dire need of help. Now, I'm not the mayor yet. I can't get him into a mental health facility. I can't clean him up. I can't get him out of this squalor, but I can certainly feed him. There, by the grace of God, goes any one of us. Adams doesn't understand this. Cuomo released them from the mental health facilities, and Zoran Mondamini has no plan for them other than to house them in subways. Here you go, sir. Sir, here you go. Sandwich, okay? And a bottle of water. You need the water desperately, don't you? You need that water, okay? Now, what's your name?
Okay, we get the point there. He goes on for a few more minutes. But the point I'm trying to make is if you want to run for office, this is a clip you want to see to remind you what not to do. Okay? This guy is going around all the places in New York City that are, this is a homeless camp. He went to a place where a guy got pushed onto the subway tracks, all the crime and areas in New York to complain about how bad the crime is. Well, all that does is associate him and his name and his face with dirty, nasty things. That's not what you want to do. If he was really wants to win the race, he really expects to win the race, what he should do is play clips from when he was in his prime, when he started the Guardian Angels back, I believe, in the 70s. Okay, and they've got clips of him and his people riding the subways, and that have clips of people saying, I feel so much safer with Curtis Sliwa and the Guardian Angels around, because they did. They did help to reduce crime in New York City. That's what he should be doing. Then when people go into the voting booth, they have a positive image and a positive image of him and his name. But the way he's doing it right now, he's guaranteed to lose. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Donald Trump.
Never, ever give up. Just keep going forward. Never stop. It may seem like you have no chance. It may seem like it's over. Never, ever quit. If you're a quitter, I hope you quit right now and stop watching immediately, because you'll never make it. I love building buildings. I have a lot of fun building buildings. The fact is, I do it for fun. I do it for game. I do it for sport. I happen to make a lot of money doing it. If I didn't enjoy it, if I didn't really love what I'm doing, I wouldn't be successful. I wouldn't be sitting with you today. People settle for mediocrity for one reason. They're lazy. I've seen it so often. People go into something, they don't want to go that extra step. They know it's not going to be great. It might be good. It might be okay. It's not going to be great. They settle for mediocrity. They're lazy. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And I can tell you 10 instances where I didn't quit. When it was 1990, the world was coming down. The debt markets were to everybody. All of my friends and enemies were going bankrupt. I never did. The times were actually just terrible. And even today, you look at times and you see what happens and you have to learn. But the word luck is very interesting. But if I didn't work really hard, I probably would not, almost definitely would not be here today. And unless you had me up as a man who at one point was successful, but let's see what a loser looks like. So you have to work hard, because it is true. You can develop luck through hard work. You're going to have a lot of people, your parents included, they're going to be saying, don't do that, don't do that. And you have to listen to them. They're wise. They've been around. They've seen. And sometimes, and I tell people, sometimes they go into a business where basically you can't be successful. You know, nobody's successful. If you can get away from that, get away from it. If you can. But you have to make sure that you do something that you love. Try to go into something that you love that can be a good business. So, you know, a lot of people go into businesses that are just not good. One of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit. You know, I went to a great school. I went to the Wharton School of Finance. And in that school, I met a lot of people heading industry today and over the past, very smart people. But I've watched some of the people grow. I've watched some of the most incredible, brilliant students. And they didn't make it like other people made it because they didn't have that drive. They didn't have that never give up ability. I don't know if it's an ability or if you have it. Just, you can't quit. And I've seen people quitting. And if they would have held out longer, they would have been successful. I've seen it so much. I've seen some of the most brilliant people in the world that never made it because they were quitters. They were just quitters. They would quit. They just couldn't take it. They couldn't, whatever. One of the things about loving what you do is that it's not work, and therefore you don't quit automatically. It's a lot easier not to quit. But you can never give up. Now, you have to also have flexibility, though. You can't necessarily say, I'm never giving up, and you got to be able to weave and bob. You don't have to go through a concrete wall when you can go over it or around it or under it or something. You have to have flexibility. You have to always be able to change course a little bit, maybe always with that same goal, but don't quit. You have to have an ability to handle pressure. Because no matter how successful you are, I have many, many friends and enemies, a lot of enemies too, I don't care, but they're smart. I have a lot of enemies, and I've watched people and I've seen it. And people that can handle pressure can be entrepreneurs, can be successful. Now, I have some friends that are really, really smart, but they can't handle pressure. In which case, they should work for somebody, do great, and have a good life. There's nothing wrong with it. Because I almost think that's an instinctive thing, the ability to handle pressure. Now, one of the things I tell people about pressure is, you know what? They said, how do you handle pressure? Who's had more pressure than me? Have I had pressure over the years? And if you can't handle pressure, you have to know that about yourself. You have to know that about yourself. So, handle pressure. If you can't, that's okay. But one of the things I tell people about handling pressure is, remember, because they ask me the question, how do you handle the stress? And I actually thought of it to myself. You have to remember, it doesn't matter. God matters. Your family matters. It doesn't matter. And if you say it, I have some people, they say, I've got to be successful. I've got to be. They'll never be successful. It's too crazy. They can't think straight. Does that make sense? So you've got to be able to sort of say to yourself, nothing matters that much other than the real big deals with family, with your faith, etc. Going against the tide is great if it works. Now, it doesn't always work, and you really have to be smart to go against the tide because you're going against a lot of smart people. But when you get it right, you'll end up better, whether it's Microsoft or Google. I mean, so many people that have really hit big have gone against the tide. But you have to have great confidence in yourself. You have to be the right person. There are very few people that can pull it off. But when you pull it off, it's great. Same thing in real estate. You go against the tide. People are selling, you're buying, the tide changes. You have to love what you do. If you do it for the money alone, it's probably not going to work. I have friends where I tell them, get out of this business, which is a good business, and go into another business, which isn't as good a business, because they like the other business better. They'll do better in a less good business, so to speak, than they will in the better business because they like it. Somebody has a family, has a job, they have a nice job, they get X dollars a week, they don't have to worry about very much, it's not going to be great, they're not going to live in Palm Beach, but you know what? They have a job, and it's income coming in. The hardest thing to do, in my opinion, in business, is to leave that job and become an entrepreneur, because you're risking your wealth, you're risking your family, your health, your family's health. You're really risking a lot. You have to know in your gut whether or not you have it to be an entrepreneur. Can you handle pressure? Can you handle all of the problems that you're going to be confronted with? And there'll be many, many problems. But the toughest job that somebody has, in my opinion, in business, is to know when to get out of something and when to go in something, because that's a very, very risky proposition. I've always believed in positive thinking. At the same time, I don't want to mislead. I also believe in aspiring, in terms of what you're doing, aspiring to protect against the downside. You can't just be this wonderful guy walking around, everything's positive, because unfortunately, that's not the way the world is. I love to tell people to think about the challenges so that when they do come along, you're ready.
Donald Trump, back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that moral relativism is immoral.